All right, let's get right into it. You see these headlines all the time, right? Some piece of art that looks, well, kind of weird, sells for an absolutely insane amount of money. And you just have to ask yourself, what is really going on here? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the whole high-end art world to figure out the real strategy behind these purchases that just seem to make no sense. I mean, it starts with something like this. $120,000. That was the actual price someone paid for a real banana duct-taped to a wall. I'm not kidding. And believe me, it gets so much crazier. How about $84 million for a painting that is, and I mean this literally, just a single black and white stripe? It kind of makes you scratch your head, doesn't it? So, that's the big question, isn't it? Why are these incredibly smart, wealthy people spending absolute fortunes on art that, let's be honest, most of us just don't get? Are they just that bored? Got nothing better to do with their money?
Well, the short answer is no, it's not that simple. Look, the super rich might have some eccentric tastes for sure, but they are rarely, if ever, stupid with their money. This isn't about some quirky artistic preference. This is a calculated game. It's all about strategy with hidden moves designed to make and save a whole lot more money. So let's start with our very first clue in this mystery, and it's probably the most straightforward one. We're talking about art as a pure and simple financial investment. Just like you'd buy stocks or a piece of real estate, you can buy art, and its value can go up. Sometimes, way up.
And a perfect case study for this is the artist Jean-Michel Basquiat. Now, to some people, his work might just look like a bunch of chaotic scribbles, but Basquiat was a total pioneer of what's called the neo-expressionist movement. And his tragic life story, going from a street artist to a global superstar before dying of a drug overdose at just 27, has made his art, which is obviously very limited, incredibly valuable.
So check this out. There's this Japanese tycoon, Yusaku Maezawa. Back in 2016, he bought this untitled painting by Basquiat for a cool $57 million, okay? Then, just 6 years later, in 2022, he turned around and sold it for $85 million.
Just let that number sink in for a second. That is a $28 million profit. In 6 years, it just goes to show you, when you're talking about the right piece, art isn't just something pretty to hang on the wall. It's a serious, high-yield asset.
But, making money is really only half the battle. The other half is keeping it, right? Specifically, keeping it away from the tax man. So let's move on to our second clue and see how art can be a surprisingly powerful tool for avoiding taxes.
Okay, let's walk through a little scenario. Let's call him Billionaire Bob. So Bob earns $50 million in 1 year, and he's looking at a $15 million tax bill. Ouch! But years ago, he bought a painting for $3 million. He gets it appraised, and now they say it's worth $20 million. So instead of selling it and paying taxes on the profit, he donates it to a museum. Because it's a charitable donation, he gets to deduct the full $20 million from his taxable income. His new tax bill drops to just $9 million. So think about it. He spent $3 million on the art, and that move ultimately saved him $3 million on his taxes. Pretty smart.
Now, you're probably thinking, well, couldn't you just get a buddy to say your cheap painting is worth millions? Not so fast. Tax agencies like the IRS are totally wise to this game. They have their own teams of art experts whose entire job is to verify these valuations and crack down on fraud. So yeah, it's a pretty high-stakes move. And that brings us to let's say, the shadier side of the art world. Because the value of art is so subjective and the market itself is so secretive, it creates the perfect environment for our third clue. Manipulation. We're talking both cleaning dirty money and straight-up rigging the market.
So first up, money laundering. You've heard the term, but in simple terms, it's just the process of taking cash from illegal activities, dirty money, and running it through a bunch of transactions to make it look like it came from a legitimate source, a clean source, like, say, the sale of a painting.
So how does this actually work? Well, imagine a criminal, we'll call him Charlie, has $10 million in dirty cash. He uses an anonymous third party to buy a painting. He then stores it in a place called a free port. These things are basically like something out of a spy movie. They're ultra-secure, tax-free warehouses, often at airports, where you can trade valuable assets totally anonymously. Sometime later, Charlie sells the painting. The $10 million he gets back, it's now clean, legitimate income from an art sale. He can pop it right in the bank, no questions asked.
Now, the second type of manipulation is a little different. This involves a group of people secretly working together to artificially pump up an artist's value so they can make an absolute killing.
So let's meet Collector Tom. He and a few of his rich friends discover this unknown but really talented artist. Let's call her Jane. Her paintings are selling for cheap, and they see a huge opportunity.
Here's the playbook. First, they all quietly buy up a bunch of her work for, say, $10,000 apiece. Then, they pool their money to create this massive marketing buzz, getting her into fancy galleries, getting critics to write about her, building up all this hype. As her fame grows, her prices start to climb, and for the final move, they put one of her paintings in a huge auction. All that manufactured buzz creates a bidding war, and the piece sells for over $10 million. Just like that, Tom and his friends have turned a tiny investment into a gigantic profit.
Okay, so we've covered investment, taxes, and even crime. But there is one final piece to this whole puzzle, our final reveal. And you know what? It might just be the most powerful reason of all. It's not about money. It's about status. It's about access.
See, for a certain type of billionaire, hanging a famous painting on their wall is the ultimate power move. It's more powerful than a Lamborghini, more powerful than a mansion. It basically screams, I am so wealthy and so connected that I can own a piece of human history that really belongs in a museum. It's a signal of incredible influence.
Owning major art, it's like a ticket. It's a key to the world's most exclusive club. It gets you into these elite events like Art Basel, where you're rubbing shoulders with other billionaires, with powerful politicians, with celebrities. It's not just about collecting art. It's about networking. It's about building influence and creating the opportunities for your next massive business deal.
So, let's bring it all home. Why do the rich buy dumb art? Because it's a powerful, multi-purpose tool. It's a tangible asset that can skyrocket in value. It's a clever way to slash a huge tax bill. And in the dark corners of the art world, it's a vehicle for crime and for rigging the market. And maybe most important of all, it's the key that unlocks the door to the global elite.
So the next time you see some crazy headline about a banana taped to a wall selling for a fortune, just remember this. It's not really about the art. It's about what you can do with the art. The value isn't always in what you see hanging on the wall. The real value is in what that object allows its owner to do.